Good evening. This is Ryan back with Babylon Radio. I'm going to go ahead and welcome aboard YouTube and Facebook. And as I get going this evening, I want to welcome aboard any new listeners and any new followers. First off, I want to begin and touch on what I've been proposing on School of Rastafari Facebook. As I begin to endeavor into creating podcasts via YouTube, I'm going to try to make it as most interesting and as most intriguing as possible. People are going to learn that there's a story of mysticism and a story of magic behind my call to Rastafari, and why I created the Facebook page of School of Rastafari. I did a couple videos on camera, and I'm working pretty much at a garage right now, so I'm going ahead and just doing podcasts for now, to allow listeners to go ahead and enjoy my lectures via audio for now. Tonight's discussion is going to be breaking George W. Bush Part Uno, for the lack of a better humor, and we're going to get into breaking 9/11 conspiracy. Now, when I created the idea of creating the School of Rastafari, there's no written history that's been brought forth in a professional manner, in a documental manner, to really teach the faith of Rastafari. But point being is that it's going to be a lot more than just the culture behind it and the history behind it. But it's going to be an outlet of truth of the world, and the deepest and darkest secrets of the world, and the deepest and darkest secrets of conspiracy of the world. As I furthermore and engage, I want to welcome aboard one member I've spoken to. His name is True Speaker. Better yet, True Seeker. True Seeker, I went ahead and jumped the gun on some things, but I want to speak to True Seeker and tell him that this is all a learning process for myself. But I'm very excited, and I'm very energized to be a part of the truth team of the world, and to bring forth some truth. So go ahead and pardon me for jumping the gun on trying to bring you on and start networking and creating new ideas. However, I got to do my own work to begin with, and I need to pretty much introduce myself and get people to understand where I fit into the role of a true speaker and a teacher of Rastafari. Give me a minute. I'm going to go ahead and enjoy some coffee for a second. So I'm going to go ahead and get into tonight's topic of discussion. I've been kind of beating around the bush, and I guess that can kind of be the starting metaphor for this evening's lecture. The truth is, George W. Bush is a man that has deep ties into criminal organizations, most notably the Italian Mafia. The Italian Mafia has associated behind George Bush and Jeb Bush for the past 2 decades. Now, the Italian Mafia, the story behind it is going to come down the road, but I just want to make note that there's a note to be made that George W. Bush has Italian Mafia association and alliance. But more importantly, we're going to get into what I want to start with, and that is what happened on the morning of 9/11, and what happened in retrospect to what news fed that morning, and what happened over the days and the weeks and the months and the years afterwards, and the stories that got left over, and what got unsolved. If you guys are following my page on the School of Rastafari, I run a blog called The Philosopher's Stone, blogspot.com. The Philosopher's Stone, blogspot.com is actually an outlet I created when I started studying Rastafari, and I became a practicing Rastaman. Now, when you say practicing Rastaman, does that just mean you're smoking ganja all the time? No, I mean, that's half the battle, but the other half is learning the wisdom. We're going to go ahead and begin to discuss briefly what it means to be a Rastaman before I jump into what's going on in 9/11 conspiracy. I also want to touch on something I've been gathering in Middle East, because I really jumped the gun on the School of Rastafari. There's a story behind it, but it's gonna find a smoother path and a smoother way of reaching the minds to be understood what I'm trying to bring forth. As we begin to discuss, I'm going to touch on what is speculated on Rastafari being a faith, or being a way of life, or being a religion. Rastafari is actually not a religion. It is actually a way of life, and it's a way of life that actually has a faith behind it. So its potentiality is for religion, but it's my understanding that once a religion is created, it becomes corrupt, and that is foretold in Judaic truth through Judaism, which was written by Abraham, and Christianity, which was a conversion of Judaism to Christianity, and Christians being the new way of following a new way of life. What I'm going to talk about this evening is what Rastafari is in the sense, in the very brief sense. Then we'll get into 9/11. That 9/11 is something that has a spiritual battle behind it. People don't understand how politics work. If a politician has a spiritual background in faith, it's going to become something that is part of their belief, and in their belief it's going to be implemented into their politics, and it's going to be nothing of separation of church and state. There's no such thing. It's the deep battles of spiritual warfare behind the cover of politicians, of why we always go to holy war, and why wars, well, it's the irony of every war is always holy, because it's over some kind of religious battle. But to begin with, I'm going to speak on Rastafari not being a doctrine under His Imperial Majesty. So, for anyone listening who has an idea of what Rastafari is, and you're coming across my page, you're going to learn that His Imperial Majesty had no doctrine to create and no doctrine to write forth a religion or a way of life of Rastafari. Rastafari is something that is actually rooted in Jamaica, and the history of it will be digging deeper, which I have bits and pieces right now, but I'm not going to present all of it right now. Main point I want to put forth is that His Imperial Majesty believed in Orthodox Christianity. His image and his vision was to create a universal church of non-denomination of Christianity. There's a similar ideology found in Mormonism. It's called the Church of Jesus Christ in the Latter-day Saints. It's the vision of Jesus Christ owning the Christian church, and there's no separation between the church. And that's kind of what the term Orthodox means. It's universal. What we're gonna do, other than that, I want people to understand that the imagination and the faith of any Rastas out there that His Imperial Majesty was in fact God Himself walking is not the truth. It is not the belief to a true Rastaman. It's a conspiracy amongst the faith. Some Rastas believe that for the image His Imperial Majesty created, and his story I will begin to tell in later lectures. But that is not the truth of him being God walking. Rastafari was later cultivated in Jamaica and brought forth through wisdom of Jamaica and its tie to Africa, and it was birthed through the rising of what was well known as the great late reggae musician Bob Marley. But we're going to understand that people are going to learn that Rastafari is something that is more than just a movement of exodus of the people. You know what I'm saying? No, it is an exodus. But people don't understand what is an exodus. That comes from Holy Scripture of biblical scripture of Jesus Christ. I'm going to go ahead and leave it for there to allow people to understand there's a reason why I'm taking the School of Rastafari forward. I apologize for the lack of flow on the page right now. I want people to understand that this is not going to be a page of different JPEGs of Bob Marley smoking a doob, or a page of Rasta smoking marijuana with good wisdom, but I'm going to take it to a world awakening towards a third eye perspective, as they like to call it. So here we go. We're going to get into 9/11, and as we begin to do so, I want people to understand that this is not for any young listeners under the age of 18. If you have any kids around, it's time to go ahead and let them out of the room. What we're gonna do is we're gonna speak unto George W. Bush and the Bush administration. George W. Bush is a fraud. First off, he's a fraud. The man is tied to what we're going to get into as Aryan Brotherhood. He has an alliance with Aryan Brotherhood, and this backdates into World War II, and the instilling of Nazism and the concentration over Jews, and how Adolf Hitler was actually the visionary to instill absolute rule through the Nazi party, and to instill fascist reign in the long scheme of things. We're gonna go ahead and leave World War II aside, but the vision Adolf Hitler held is the vision George W. Bush was pursuing when he was in the Oval Office. We're going to learn that taking time tonight is something that people want to take to peace. I had to present the heaviest material off the bat, that this country needs an awakening. Now, I'm sitting here with barely any, 100 likes on my page, and this is just, I had to put it aside for a week because I was losing my mind. But I have an outlet of podcasts, and these lectures I'm going to try to do no longer than 1 hour at a time, so people can enjoy an hour of truth, and they're not listening for 5 hours at a time, because I could do 12 hours at a time, but we'd all go insane. So George W. Bush, we're going to go ahead and speak on what I know to be false flags, and I'm going to tell you this is Breaking Bush Part Uno for a reason, because breaking the story to 9/11 is something I'm going to do over studying, over podcasts, and then one day hopefully I can put it in a book and say I was the closest one at it. But it's about time we brought something to a faith that said we're not about this kind of absolute rule, where social equality and social economy is at the extreme spectrums of both ends. This is I'm talking, in a sociology class manner for any Q blondes listening. I want people to learn that Rastafari is something that George W. Bush and other men and women in office are actually speculating conspiracy against my rising to what they would call as a false prophet to a new way of life. I'm going to go ahead and say, how could I be a false prophet to a new way of life if a prophet was someone that could foretell things? And I can foretell the rise of legalization of marijuana, and I could foretell the rise of Rasta culture alongside it, so I'm not a false prophet. Furthermore, we're going to go ahead and talk about Bush in the morning of 9/11 and some false flags I noted. I'm going to go ahead and read off some posts I posted, and then we're going to go over that. I'm going to take a smoke break, and we're going to finish up for the evening, because 9/11, we can all get lost in it, but it's time that someone that can break it gives it back. Alright, so I put a post that said, "Tonight I will begin to document and record for the sake of the public history the truth to the outrageous lies once told by the man true to his name, George W. Bush. I do not speak conspiracy. I can break it and show the mind the truth, to captivate a mind to my input. Let's just say the man is true to his art of liking, beat around the bush. Tonight we will touch on 9/11 for its greatest piece of mystery to this day, and our country will soon begin to understand it, living under some scary circumstances. I cannot break the story over one lecture. It will take years to be understood. But know the work of myself and others I share. I have done the research to know for a fact of historical documentation my story will be the complete truth. from the archives of Illuminati. Please allow me to show you his art. Answer the fucking question, one, or are you just beating around the bush? So, point being is, in that video, I'm trying to recall, I have to go back to it. George W. Bush is a man that uses deception. Now, in politics and in power, a man knows to hold some intel to himself, some intel to his correspondents that are aligned with him, and the other intel that is not gifted to the opposing parties that could jeopardize his power and his safety. He doesn't give it away. So he uses a mastermind called beating around the bush, and it's a spell of black magic of what he uses his wise mind as, which is a psychology study, wise mind. So he puts himself in a deception called beating around the bush. So whenever he takes his stand, if there's a question he doesn't want to give the truth to, he'll take that perspective of beating around the bush to throw off whoever's asking the question, to kind of give a half-truth back, to say, yeah, you got an answer, but you didn't get what you're looking for. And that's his art of deception. Now, what's coming forth in that one, I think that story was back when a kid asked him what happened. How did you see the plane crash on the news? I'm not here to break down every piece of conspiracy of every instance of George W. Bush's time in Oval Office, but he avoided the question because the truth behind it was that morning, and he didn't want to give the truth to that morning. And he used that art of deception, and I believe he went off to actually spill that calling Jeb Bush his brother, which is something interesting, because that would have a conspiracy I'm formulating on an Aryan brotherhood between George and Jeb, with a deception of Jeb Bush being a cousin to George. Now, that's what I heard in the past. Now, if I were to go Jeb Bush, I could be wrong. He could be his brother. But there's a story behind it, and it's interesting. Okay, no, they're brothers. For say. They're brothers for say right now. Okay, I didn't know that. So he played it with his brother. But the point being is, he went into his deceptive mind. But we're gonna go ahead and talk about the next part. For more document purposes, I have production of Illuminati leaked resources that will begin to tell the true story of 9/11. This video is presumed by myself to be recorded and produced to those who had connection on the inside job. Please begin to study alongside me as we will begin to break this story together. It is full of evil and dirt, and even the devil himself would pity a man or woman who committed this evil of genocide, not terrorism. This film speaks the following initial aerial coverage of satellite footage with smoke, presumably satellite. Furthermore, we begin to see coverage of bombing at World Trade Center with targets jumping. Lastly, they leave us with coverage of foot ground, which seems like a motorist filming the avalanche of smoke. Presumably, someone expecting the attack with inside intel was waiting to film. At the end of the clip, it shows nighttime coverage of what looks to be the Pentagon bombing. Note in this clip, it looks to be dark out at this time. Point to uncover, it is in the contradiction to news story. We have the production with Symbolia insinuating Freemasonry, probably the irony of me being a Freemason myself, and how they leaked this thinking no one could break the story or to detect the truth. We'll be discussing and understanding this more in tonight's lecture. Okay, so let me explain. 9/11 is something people don't know how it was organized. People don't understand what was going on between foreign affairs in the Middle East, and what was going on between Al-Qaeda and Taliban, Saddam Hussein, Osama bin Laden, and any other guerrilla denominations of Muslim tie. I want to begin to paint the picture. So when I read my notes, that's just a recital of my notes. Now I'm going to give the reflection back to the note, so you guys can see these notes back on the School of Rastafari and see how these podcasts are going to kind of paint the picture over these notes. There's a man named David Icke. I believe he's European or British, and he has speculated conspiracy that there's aliens living in the world. His theory is something that's going to be brought to I want a better understanding, but he believes George W. Bush is an alien, and he believes that George W. Bush is someone that actually brought a race to the United States, and actually bred a pure blood of white men. Now, this is his conspiracy, but his conspiracy digs into what's called transfiguration, that aliens can be living in the world, but have powers of transforming into human form. And as there's a belief in it, I'm not on the alien train. I'm not. But I'll tell you what I do know. I've had extraterrestrial encounters, so there's such things. But that's his theory. Point being is, there's interesting conspiracy alongside David Icke and mine, because there is what's going on in the United States is that there is a building of fascism, and this is built upon Aryan Brotherhood. And what people don't understand is that government uses deception, and what the government doesn't understand is that, well, I was going to teach it, and people are going to be blown away and go, yeah, fuck a democratic republic. I thought it was democracy, but hey, we're going with Nazism as third time's the charm behind it. That's the point here. George W. Bush decided that he needed to instill an attack on his country to gain alliance in the Middle East. That is my theory. Now, do I have hard evidence of that's what he wrote out? No, I'm playing what Albert Einstein taught, and that's the power of imagination. And I'm I'm role playing, and I'm putting myself in his shoes, and this is how you break a conspiracy. What we're going to learn is that George W. Bush didn't know what was going on with Saddam Hussein. Now, Saddam Hussein was in jeopardy at the time. Actually, he was not liked in well, I guess it's Iraq, or let me cross-reference that. I'm sorry. Saddam Hussein held power. I'm not perfect, people. I'm not perfect. President of Iraq. Okay, fair enough. Hence the war went to Iraq. He didn't know his he didn't know his alliance as well, because George W. Bush wasn't in charge of that. Jeb was. And what happened is George W. Bush decided that the country needed change. It needed change. And he knew that the country was in debt. He knew the country was in debt. And we've been in gazillions of dollars in debts for gazillions of years. He wanted to play an attack on his country to allow for a recession. And this is how we begin to find a recession. Because what happens is, if a country becomes so far in debt and they can't afford to pay people back and afford to run a country, and there's foreign affairs of there's being issues of things aren't being traded properly, now we got an issue for we need some more fucking oil, and I need to cover this up, kind of thinking. The point is, George W. Bush decided that it would be best to throw his country into a recession, to allow it to rejuvenate and regroup, as it wouldn't be a spot for an attack from other parts of the world, such as China, most notably. But he decided to go ahead and play the oil game once again, and we'll dig on how that plays back to his father, of course. We're gonna learn that 9/11 is an inside job masterminded by Jeb Bush, and commanded by George W. Bush. We're going to learn that Jeb Bush is someone that actually stepped into office as governor to play back a position of power to feed intelligence to George W. Bush. Now, what I want to go ahead and begin to share is that, let's see what this, I'm going to go to my next post. The last piece of film I'm going to put forward as documentation on the conspiracy against 9/11 in the American states is a production by the rapper named Paris. A lot of footage, but this production speaks a lot. This is the truth to break conspiracy. There has to be a pathway for a story to unfold. Even a production like this, we live in a world where the people do not act on their evil government. But if we had a new faith and a new identity, we can empower ourselves through the same imagination of the activist group Anonymous. Point being, there are moles in every game. But once personal record is made and backed up, things that try to get covered only may gather more attention to create a greater story against our government. This is where I can leave before I record my next lecture. Okay, so point being is, we're gonna leave the New World Order out of that video is actually a production by a rapper on showing that the power of government heading towards a New World Order. That's all it needs to know. We're gonna get into the New World Order later. That's something that came alongside 9/11, but it wasn't really the hot topic of 9/11. So the New World Order is not it ain't the secret behind 9/11. That's not what it is. What we're gonna do is learn that Rastafari is something that the New World Order is actually after to conquer what could have been an instilling of faith alongside a way of a politician. Now you have to understand. I've been doing my studies. Now, if you are a mon that knows me, I'm gonna go ahead and drop a name. Reason I'm doing this is because this work is undoubtable truth. For the most part. I don't have everything pinpoint, but it's truth. So I'm bringing a name out of the blue. His name's Alex Calta. Alex, I don't know if you follow my work, but what this kind of technique of putting a name over a microphone, it passes word. So if someone comes across and knows Alex Calta, he'd get the word. Point being, this is the message Alex Calta would confirm. He's a man that I went to elementary school with, and he founded government. If I were to speak to him and I said, Alex, if we lived in a democracy and our government sold us to a democracy of two parties of Republican and Democratic, Alex would probably look at me and go, "Yeah, dude, this is fifth grade government. What happened?" No. So here it is. We live in a democratic republic. You see, we don't live in a democracy. We live in a democratic republic. Now, if I were to tell Alex, isn't that peculiar? Go look up Democratic Republic. That's another form of government in other parts of the world, and he'd be able to confirm that. The way the world works is that a government uses deception. So they could be running a democracy and tell the country we are a democracy, but behind it we are actually a democratic republic. And behind the democratic republic, we're actually trying to instill fascism. What is going on in America is such as, but this is the point that's going to put power in government going, damn, dude, how the hell did this dude figure it out? Well, this is the great thing. If you put fascism against society, you have now created a social structure of high class, middle class, low class, and poverty. Now, it's a four-part structure. And now Nazism is in favor of absolute power. So if you're in government, you're going to be you're in high class. So we don't give a flying below. But point being is that's not looking out for the goodwill of our people in our country. And communism is something that is actually built around fascism. And the supporting Green Party would be able to create a movement of communism against the fascist reign to allow for social equality. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, social equality would be communism, as in the Soviet Union achieved it, but it's another story. But the fact is that if there was a way of life called Rastafari that had faith, we could build something alongside a communist ideal. I'm not here to play politics, and I'm not here to run for president. I'm here to teach the truth. That was just a spiel I gave to Alex, because Alex would say, that's intriguing. Furthermore, is I want people to learn that my motive is not to instill a communist party. However, this is something that politics would hold alongside a fascist reign, which is actually what is behind Islam. Islam is the fight for communism in its political vision. It holds the commie flag. What we're going to learn is George W. Bush actually indicted himself to go ahead and serve out special co-ops and special operations on his own territory to instill this fascist reign under his power of Aryan Brotherhood. And how fascism actually became forth into America under his reign. And if I were to do a cross-reference on Jeb Bush and his reign as governor in Florida, I'm trying to see if Jeb Bush was in office the time George W. was the president. I'm going to go ahead and give a pause. I'm coming up on 45 minutes. I'm trying to do hour lectures. We're going to go over just a little bit an hour this evening, and then we're going to give it a break. But when I come back, we're going to go ahead and go into George W. Bush and how he instilled Nazism through his presidency. Alrighty, so I'm back on. So 9/11, we got news in the morning of the Twin Towers being the first attack. Now, the intriguing thing is that 9/11 actually insinuates a black magic insinuation of what America is built upon, and that is 911, the state of emergency, or the call to an emergency. This was actually a conspiracy that David Icke held as well. Something I came in my mind, on my own mind, and later connected that David Icke had the same conspiracy. What we're going to learn is that Rastafari was a prophecy written in Jamaica that George W. Bush was engaging himself in studies to work against any movement that could fall in the United States. You have to understand that people of power who say they're Christians aren't necessarily telling the truth. They are playing deception on what the devil mind would be of deceiving the world and still holding power. That's playing the devil. What George W. Bush did is he set himself up to actually receive notice of the attack while he was speaking to an elementary school. And the reason was it was to throw people off, to say, yeah, there's no flying fucking way he would be in on an inside job if he was speaking to little kids when a terrorist attack was going on. So that would be his deceptive mind of a premeditation of this is where I would hurt myself, so people would have no presumption or assumption that I had any tie behind these attacks. It was his setup to alleviate any controversy. Now, what happened was people don't really understand that we have some issues here. Now we have footage that shows a paratrooper jumping off the building and a foot crew filming this paratrooper jumping out the building, and we have some people on what I would presume to be motorcycles filming the avalanche, meaning they were set up to film this attack, which all indicts the conspiracy of 9/11 being a premeditated attack, inside job on U.S. soil, meaning President Bush would be held responsible. What I want to break to begin with is the Twin Towers. I'm going to paint the full picture tonight in an illustration, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it resonate, and we're going to come back to 9/11. But right now, we're going to go ahead and say genocide. This was not terrorism. This was not an attack by Al-Qaeda. This was not a matter of hijack in a plane that we still don't have family members speaking of, yeah, my daughter was on that plane. Here's her birth certificate. This is my birth certificate. And that proves there were real people on that plane. Still haven't seen that footage. I want people to understand that the Pentagon attack is now being conspiracized as there's footage of a bombing at a different hour. Now, what the witnesses were, that attack came later of 9/11, and witnesses were there saying a plane had crashed into the Pentagon. Now, why is there footage of bombings of the Pentagon? I'm going to go ahead and say this is how people who do my work are trying to get thrown off, and the conspiracy is going to be broken, that the true story to 9/11 is as deep as stories of inside jobs go. But tonight I want to paint the picture in the story of ignoring the nighttime footage of bombings of the Pentagon. I want to go ahead and play the imagination through of the story that got fed the morning of 9/11. So 9/11, we wake up. It's late morning Pacific Standard Time. I would recall. Well, it wasn't late morning. It was actually early morning. It was probably 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. I was standing in line before 6th grade school, elementary class, when we were all talking about what we saw on the news. So it was it came on early Pacific Standard Time, probably 5-ish. I can't recall. But we were speaking of a Twin Tower attack of the World Trade Center, and as that went on, there later came an attack on the Pentagon, and then after foremost there was a plane that had been hijacked and dropped in Pennsylvania. What is missed here is the perfect setup to throw a conspiracist off. But for the sake of doing my fair share of psychedelic drugs and being able to use a mastermind against a mastermind that tried to fool conspiracists, I'm going to go ahead and run that it was not a paratrooper, it was an attack of Al-Qaeda. But wait a minute. Why do we have why is there a paratrooper jump? Why is there a paratrooper jumping off the World Trade Center? Oh, Why is there footage of a man filming a paratrooper? There's an inside job. Step one. And then we're going to go ahead and move forward to the Pentagon. Now, we get a hit on the Pentagon, which causes, this is called, NBC's not going to like this one, but time distortion is their favorite. Time distortion allows to feed one story to manipulate a mind and get them focused on something, and then when they want to set another attack up, they can take the attention away from the Twin Towers and bring it to the Pentagon. Now, the attention on the Pentagon and the dirt work over at the Twin Towers is now being cleaned up. And I would love to take the toll count in New York City and say, how many of you were walking the streets of the morning of September 11th, 2001, and did you see a flying plane actually hit the tower? Now, we have a conspiracy against witnesses that are out to sell the story of that. Now, you have a witness that's selling the story of saying, yeah, I did see the airplane, but is that witness a true civilian, or is that witness a man that was on getting paid for the inside job, and that's another false flag? It was a false flag. It's not a red alert of that man is a man indicted by George W. Bush to be I guess a fool to try to throw a conspiracy off. But you didn't think I was going to get this good, did you? So that's how they sell the story. Now they have time distortion to play the attack on Pentagon to clean up the dirt work. And now they have the dirt work cleaned up. They have their witnesses to feed it to the media, because you can't sell every news camera on the inside job. Then you're really running out of cash then. And you play the plane attack on the Pentagon. Now, I'm not going into the Pentagon story yet, because I have not masterminded it, but I'm going to go ahead and say a false flag on the Pentagon, on the timing of the Pentagon, but I'm going to go ahead and say the setup of the drop on Pennsylvania was a staged airplane to go ahead and to sell the country that it was an attack of airplanes. Now, you have to see, you drop a plane, which could be an inside job of a staged crash that didn't really happen, a staged crash of inside men that are getting paid off to set up this story that says, well, they may have not seen the other two airplanes hit the Pentagon and hit the Twin Towers, but this airplane down in Pennsylvania, George W., did you try to sell them on the drop plane? I don't know, man, but hey, getting a little wicked. I don't know. I get a little anxious myself. But hey, we're moving right along, and the point being is it was an inside job. I'm going to go ahead and break the conspiracy and sign this one off. George W., you indicted weapons of mass destruction to go ahead and try to gain alliance through terrorist organizations, Taliban affiliated, to go ahead and instill Islam upon Christianity. This goes back into deception upon Christians and what they were planning to instill FEMA camps in the disguise of concentrations to Christians. You're going to learn that concentrating Christians in the 21st century is not going to be the easiest damn thing in the world. When the man speaking Rastafari is not only going to spare some Christians, he's going to spare about a gazillion. This is the point. You can't figure men's minds out until you listen to what I'm trying to pave. Now, I said Islam deception upon Christianity, meaning George W. Bush tells himself as a Christian, but he's really an Islamic, and that's why he's playing war games alongside Al Qaeda and Taliban, saying, well, hey, I just did fucking terror on my country, it's really genocide shit. Well, here we go with Islamic reign behind Christian faith, and we'll learn more on why that got carried forward in the next election. But the point is, Islam is the ideal behind this gain of fascism. But the goal of mutual achievement, and why I'm going to bring peace to George W. Bush, is that we are after communism, not fascism. For us, the far right would be our social equality. Now, we're going to learn that people do stupid things, and people do things for a reason, and there's more stories to be told. As people come, I want to go ahead and keep George W. Bush indicted as not a target upon my words. I want the true story to be told before any action is made. We're going to go ahead and bring forth a message to Barack Obama. Barack, as you're my commander-in-chief over my podcast, I have anointed myself as officiating admiral for here on after. We're going to go ahead and play war, and we're going to play war as peacefully as we can. And this is all going to be intriguing because my listeners are going to really get a shit that Rastaman is really just calling it from left and right. But for this evening, I'm going to do what I call a section on what I'm working on for radio. It's called Treating the Mic. I'm a philosopher. It's my love. It's my true passion in my writing is philosophy. For philosophy was so lost that the lost philosopher said, well, fuck it, I'll just write something new. There was a man named there was a great baseball player. Many young boys growing up, father to son, probably got the story handed down, and the story of Jackie Robinson. Jackie Robinson was the first African American baseball player to play in the MLB. But there's a story about Jackie Robinson that no one's ever heard, and that's a story I'm gonna speak. Jackie Robinson was never fond of Los Angeles. For Los Angeles was still a wicked racist. And this is back when Jackie was just getting into see, this is the interesting thing. Now, if I were to look up Jackie Robinson, this is the truth. He played in something that was called, isn't that intriguing? Jack Roosevelt Jackie Robinson was an American Major League Baseball second baseman who became the first African American to play in the major leagues. Now, he was never fond of Los Angeles for a reason. And, this goes back to old rivalry. Now, at the time of Jackie Robinson playing, he was playing in the early 20th century. And, he played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. So he played for New York. Jackie Robinson knew one thing about traveling to the West Coast, and that was racism was going to be an issue. And there was a game Jackie played out in LA once, and he said, being born in the South says hoorah, but being born in the South out West says fuck yeah. So if I were to be able to play baseball, I would just say, well, I just go back to Brooklyn and say hell yeah, as well. Maybe that's for some well, there you go, East Coast kids. God love you. God bless. Rastafari. We just getting away.